friends, and welcome back to another exciting episode of Coffee and Wrestling, a wrestling podcast with your hosts, Jamie and Mark.
Hello, friends.
Hello, friends. Twas a week.
It was a week
for wrestling.
So much wrestling this week. It was insane. We had, of course, your regularly scheduled program, Raw, SmackDown, Dynamite, Rampage, and Collision, as well as
enough.
Impact. You had NXT. Neither one of them we have caught with.
TNA now.
TNA as of right now, officially,
yes.
Because of Saturday. We also had TNA's Hard to Kill.
Yes.
We also had AEW's Battle of the Belts.
Yes, and NJPW's Battle in the Valley.
Yeah, a lot of wrestling this week. We still have quite a bit to catch up on. Thank God I have Monday off from work.
Yeah, as we've always said, sometimes life happens and sometimes Dungeons & Dragons gets in the way. And so Saturday night was just not a good night for us to watch wrestling.
Sometimes you just play dodgeball for 3 hours in Dungeons & Dragons. And
yeah.
I don't really know how that worked, and it worked out great. And
sometimes you're just a rat playing dodgeball.
In Starfinder, not even Dungeons & Dragons.
But
I digress.
Anyways.
Yeah, a lot of different things happening, but at the same token, not a lot happening. But I think before we go any further, I think the winner of professional wrestling this week, and this is after all the pay-per-views, granted I don't know the results of a handful of the matches, but honest to God, I really think the winner of this week is the Young Bucks' mustaches.
When the scum stashes are back, things are about to get really good and grimy.
The minute they walked out, I instantly fell in love with the idea that these guys are are Sting's last opponents, and I know I'm going to get flack for that. And I know that people, and I understand the backlash of people going, "Wow, the Young Bucks are Sting's final opponent," and I understand the anger towards it. Of course, everybody wants to see it to be Ric Flair or Hulk Hogan or Kevin Nash.
Does everybody want to see that?
No, I'm not saying, but they want to see like that caliber. It's the
or like a legendary, Sting came from WCW times to be able to have a WCW fellow employee would be able to be really cool. But you really got to put a perspective on it and remember that all those guys are old.
Everybody's old. Sting, it's surprising how Sting is able to perform the way that he does.
Because he does tag matches with Darby, and I'm not discrediting Sting.
Right.
I will never discredit Sting.
Sting has done more in professional wrestling in the past 2 years than some have done in 10.
Oh, for sure.
Especially his age.
He's had such a fun run the last couple of years too.
So I understand the hate towards the Young Bucks being of course they're the ones. Mm-hmm. The rumor mill, of course, always rumors, has said that Sting had a choice as to who he could wrestle as long as it was not within WWE, because obviously WWE is not going to be working with AEW. He gave him option, whoever it is you want, we will try and get, and he
any brand
supposedly picked the Young Bucks.
I can see why. I really can. And again, maybe it's just we're going to get heat for it, but I can see why, because they know how to put people over.
You're talking about the Bucks.
The Young Bucks. And I think that's the important take from this.
Right.
Is that it's okay if Sting wins and we all know it.
Mm-hmm.
That's okay. That's all right. If he gets the pin, especially, that's okay.
Right.
He gets his last match. But he needs to go over looking really, really, really good.
Yeah.
Revolution is my favorite pay-per-view, so I'm very, very stoked about it. It's gotten to the point where it's almost sold out, so I think it's going to be an absolutely incredible crowd.
Right.
But I do think the Young Bucks are going to make it a more interesting match and make Sting and Darby look really super good. And they're not afraid. They are not afraid to take a loss.
Well,
they're not afraid to take a bump.
It's funny you say that. I don't think it's going to go down that way. Classically, when an individual, and we've talked about this, Andrade did it.
Moment.
Andrade did it when he had his final match the other day. And whenever you go out of a company, whenever you move on, whenever you do whatever, you do what's best for business.
And you put over the next guy.
You go out looking up at the lights.
You really think it's going to happen?
Okay.
They are, I think, 25-0 wrestling together. Darby and Sting have never lost a tag team match.
But what a way to not only, because everybody hates the Bucks right now. It's like it is like
that would
a wrestling trope to hate the Bucks.
Look
at
see
how
why.
they came out. And this is why I'm saying their mustaches are the winners of wrestling this week. Look how they came out. They want you to buy this lemon of a car. They want to sell you that overpriced hot water tank you don't need. They want to make sure that you get that tire rotation and the nitrogen that costs more money and the extra premium air that goes in your tires.
So they're scum.
They're scum. And that's what they're always portrayed as.
Right.
And I think they're just going to look at it and go, you know what?
Heel Bucks are fun.
We have an opportunity that you have two individuals that are so over, that are so babyface, that are just white hot, absolute searing babyface individuals.
You just mentioned Sting and Darby and people go apeshit.
They automatically love it. It is like a tag team that we didn't know that we wanted, and it's a tag team that the minute they did tag team, it's been an absolute dream ever since. There's never been a problem with it. They have never had they don't vibe well. Every match that they're in has been an awesome performance. Like you said, they are practically flawless with everything they've done. What a better way to put over the heels of the company, the ones that everybody is like, oh my God, the Young Bucks always get the chances. They always get the titles. They always get the premium spots on the card.
And then people are going to say that they wrote themselves in to win against Sting and Darby Allin.
Why not lean into it?
I mean, sure, why not?
I don't think Sting and Darby Allin are getting the win.
Okay.
Because not only that,
I think that they will.
I won't even pull down the fourth wall, but I don't think if they do get the win, I fully get it. I fully understand giving Sting that
to feel
last
good,
hurrah, the arm up in the air as he rides off.
Sting doesn't need to put over anybody. It's Sting.
Doesn't need to. Yeah. And the Young Bucks don't need the push from Sting. It's not like this is going to put the Young Bucks on a better level.
Yeah, right. They don't give a shit.
It. They don't need it. They're past that point when they're in their career. Mm-hmm. But I think it would just do so much good for AEW to give yourself a final boss heel. They vanquished Sting. They took out the best tag team. They took out the most over two individuals in AEW. I think it would just be I think it would be best for business. That's really what it boils down to, is I really think it would be best for business. Sting goes with his eyes up. Maybe he doesn't take the loss. Maybe actually, you know what? Honest to God, if it's going to go out that way, Sting takes the loss. Mm-hmm. He fucking takes that loss and just says, that's it. I'm done. Mm-hmm. With a smile on his face.
Yeah.
But like always, I'm getting completely off track and completely off topic and completely off the schedule that we're supposed to be doing. Let's bring it on back, circle around, digress as much as we can. Let's start off with possibly the most polarizing individual in all of professional wrestling right now. Well, maybe, depending on how your Saturday went.
Prince Nana?
No. CM Punk and Drew McIntyre had a back and forth on Monday Night Raw to open it up. And it's another little bit of is this going to be our first feud with CM Punk? I mean, we're rolling into Royal Rumble, which I believe is the focus for Punk. Mm-hmm. But he's not really making a lot of friends along the way to the Royal Rumble. It seems like he's going to have a few enemies come, whether he wins the Royal Rumble or not. It seems like he's going to have a couple of people that are going to kind of want to take words with him after what he said to him.
Well, like he said before, he's not really there to make friends, which is a good
He's doing a great job
attitude
at it, I
guess, to have.
I guess for who he is and what he's done in the past year or so, for him showing up and saying exactly what he's there to do, which is to not make many friends, just make money. He seems like he's doing a great job. Yeah. He even kind of called out Cody Rhodes and said, even he's not going to stop me from winning the Royal Rumble. Although he did say one nice thing. He did tell Drew that because he's such a nice guy, he's going to make sure that he throws out Drew last. So good on Punk for
being a nice guy,
making sure his people know who how he prioritizes others.
Yeah, right. It wasn't the best promo between the two. A little forced. I feel like either CM Punk is holding back intentionally, or they told him hold back.
This is what you say.
This is all you're allowed to say?
Do you think they do that? We're on the topic of Punk and how polarizing of an individual is. Do you think he in WWE he's had the sit down conversations with creative and Mr. Levesque, and just like they kind of looked at him and said, listen, this is what you want. This is what you need to do.
Sure.
And this is what you're going to do. You know what I mean?
Yes. I think that they would have been silly not to have included that in his contract.
Right.
Obviously, we can't give you the hot mic and let you say whatever you want to.
Right. This isn't 2010 anymore.
No, you can tell his enthusiasm on the mic has been very turned down. That's, to me, always been his high point, is his mic skills. Mm-hmm. And ever since he's been back, it's been very
PG Punk.
Very PG Punk.
Is it PG Punk? I mean,
very.
I feel like we're PG-13.
Yeah.
He's PG with a little bit of an edge. He's got a snarl to it, but he does feel like a very watered down version of the CM Punk that I think that everybody originally fell in love with, whether it's AEW or WWE back before he walked out, or Ring of Honor.
Sure.
He's always had that like snarl, that edge, and I feel like he's kept that, but it does feel like we're looking at a pushing 50-year-old CM Punk.
Right.
And it's a different CM Punk, and I think it fits really well with the WWE crowd, though.
It does, but it really feels like you brought the Punk kid to Human Resources. And like he's trying to be like the top dog.
Right.
And like to live your whole life to be against it, and now you're like, I'm for the company.
Right.
It feels very canned.
It feels ingenuous, to be personally honest. Like,
it does.
But I mean,
that's me personally. I may be wrong.
He's a draw, though. Like that's
for
my
sure.
My only other
for sure
argument against it is
people want to see who his opponent is.
I texted Eddie after he debuted in WWE. Eddie Ray is a good friend of ours, huge CM Punk fan. He always has been, and he's definitely one of those. Well, anything can happen, and very positive about it, which is great. I'm so glad he gets to see Punk back in WWE. It's honestly probably where he's gonna flourish the best. But I don't know. I just can't look at him without just be going, man, you just weird. It's
a little bit of a sour taste, you can't help with that. Well, and I don't even know if we should go into it right now, but there's like another thing within that. I'm gonna take a little bit of a left-hand turn.
No way.
Yeah, I know. We gotta stay on topic, right? I'm gonna take a little bit of a left-hand turn, and I'm gonna take a moment to say that Jack Perry debuted in NJPW this weekend. And that, I feel, has a little bit of an asterisk on it, too. I don't know what the intentions are.
Right.
Nothing has been said about he's not with AEW. He is with NJPW. He's just a free agent. Nothing to that.
He did show up and pull his contract out of his pocket and tear it to pieces. But, I mean, I can't see...
Is that really saying anything?
Well, but I can't see NJPW having a feature like that with a company that they do business with on a yearly basis with Forbidden Door. I feel like that would be in bad taste for NJPW. But
and like Will Ospreay said, like, okay, I'm with AEW, but I'm still kind of working with NJPW. Right. We're having like a mutual thing. The two companies kind of work together, so I can be a part of AEW. So like you said, the idea of
they've already have a good relationship. So
unless they didn't know, which is totally possible that they didn't know.
But that could also be the gimmick. That could be also the gimmick. Like it's an unhinged Jack Perry. It's the Crimea River Jack Perry. It's the I'll fight you backstage Jack Perry. You don't know what Jack Perry's going to do. He's going to pull his contract out.
I'm a crazy man.
But does that mean he's no longer with AEW?
I don't know. I mean, he copywrote his name. He had the copyright to his name.
And then also Jungle Boy as well.
To Jungle Boy, to Jack Perry, to A Boy and His Dinosaur, which is like him and Luchasaurus.
Now named Kill Switch.
Yes, but all of that he had a copyright for. So I guess the writing on the wall was he more than likely was going to be leaving AEW. I don't know. Maybe like, okay, so let's play into the idea that this is just a work.
Right.
Why would AEW want to do something like this? Well, maybe it puts a different focus on Jack Perry.
Okay.
It puts the eyes on him as, wow, what's he doing in NJPW? As opposed to, wow, what happened with him and CM Punk?
Right.
So maybe putting him in NJPW has him face different opponents that he's not used to. And in NJPW, they're not talking about Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus and CM Punk. those things are kind of forgotten about in the NJPW world.
Right.
So they can kind of bring him back to AEW, and now he's
almost like a cleanser. You put him in NJPW, he gets enough momentum back to where people are enjoying.
He is the palate cleanser between the meals. Right.
Okay. I could see them doing that. I just can't see him showing up, tearing the AEW contract on NJPW pay-per-view or event or whatever you want to call it, and then them still having a healthy relationship with AEW.
Unless they didn't know.
Unless it was either they didn't know or it was pre-authorized. Like, hey, Tony, we're gonna do this just as, we've signed him, you got rid of him, so we're just going to get him some more heat. Tony's not an idiot. He would look at it and possibly go, okay, sure.
Oh, sure. Just the same as MJF isn't on the roster anymore, but he more than likely is still signed to the company. You know?
Right.
And as of Sunday night, Jack Perry is still on the roster for AEW.
Right.
So either they're off, they're not on their game, which they usually are, about getting rid of people when they're not there anymore.
As soon as QT Marshall was let go January 1st, they took him off.
Okay, so they're usually pretty good about it.
Right.
Or they didn't know.
Yeah, I mean
it's possible they didn't know. He doesn't really seem like the guy that follows all the rules too. And
they haven't. AEW has not come out and said whether he's still with AEW. As of the last we knew, he was suspended indefinitely.
Right.
There's been plenty of rumors going around saying that his suspension has been over for months, and it's either he is neither not being utilized or they just have nothing for him, or they're just waiting for his contract to end. So
possible.
Who knows? It might have just might have just ended, and they said we're going to go our separate ways. This could be an entire ruse, but Jack Perry is back on TV.
Mm-hmm. Rumors are that there is a pay-per-view. There is a pay-per-view in April for NJPW, and the rumors are that Jack Perry might be debuting there, which just so happens to be in Chicago.
Okay. Everything. Why does everything have to happen in Chicago now?
Everything has to happen in Chicago.
What is it about Chicago? Somebody from Illinois, tell me, why is Chicago for pro wrestling a hot spot for things to happen?
I mean, I can only think that it's because lately, if you say Chicago, you just can't help but think of CM Punk.
One thing we want to mention before we move on, SmackDown, there was an unfortunate accident between Carmelo Hayes and Austin Theory. Hell of a botch between two of them. They just miscommunication, landed both on their head. Glad to see that the both of them are okay, but just wanted to kind of point out WWE really upping their, safety protocol with matches that go awry. We had Vinci end up getting a concussion, I think 2 weeks ago, from a kick that was just a little too close. They instantly stopped the match then as well. Didn't seem like anything was wrong at the time because he ended up walking off on his own accord. But good to see that.
That's the important thing about stopping stuff like this is it doesn't seem like it's a big deal at the time.
It's good to see that they've become a lot more cautious with head injuries and with trauma like that, because a lot of these things have always come back to these guys in tenfold to kick them in the ass. So it just kind of a mention to see good that they're looking out for the professionals in the rings more.
I mean, obviously the show and the entertainment is the best part of it, but in all reality, we can't have that if the wrestlers aren't safe. So number one, definitely the safety of the wrestlers, the staff, and the fans is the most important thing. So just really happy to see
Hooray, safety.
Yeah, it's okay to stop the match. It's a little bit awkward.
I'd love to see these guys get plastered in the face with chairs and barbed wire, but I would absolutely hate to see one of them get hurt and not be able to go home to their families.
For sure. I was actually really digging that match too. That was a really good match between Carmelo Hayes and Austin Theory. It was a really good match between the two. I'm glad to see that Carmelo Hayes got such a good response on, TV. He's so good. He's so talented. If you hear anything with NXT over the last few years, Carmelo Hayes' name is just assimilaid with that. Right. He's so good. Happy to see him moving up. Sucked that it ended like that, but I hope really good to see what the match that they did give you was great. Because he was definitely asking for hey, what's up with the Royal Rumble? Kind of insinuating that he might be wanting a spot. I think he ended up getting interrupted. He never got an opportunity to really clear that man, talk about it. Hope he's okay. Put him in the Royal Rumble. Man, I'd be worried to be in the Royal Rumble with him. Well, speaking of people that are worried about who's going to be in the Royal Rumble, Paul Heyman had a very stressful SmackDown this week. He did. All of the Bloodline team too.
Yeah, well, pretty much everybody but the tribal chief himself, because he just didn't show up for work.
Yeah, he shouldn't have to worry. You know?
Once again, before I go any further, I am advocating Orange Cassidy, better champion than Roman Reigns. Fight me. But Nick Aldis has made a fatal four-way match for Royal Rumble that involves obviously Roman Reigns.
Yes.
LA Knight, Randy Orton, and the returning AJ Styles.
Yes.
And of course, Paul Heyman, being the wise man that he is trying to get out of it 6 ways from Sunday.
Of course.
Ends up setting up this handicap match between Solo Sikoa, Jimmy, and Roman Reigns, and AJ Styles, Randy Orton, and LA Knight.
Problem was,
Roman doesn't show up for work anymore.
Correct.
So now we've got this big 3-man match the whole night. You have Paul Heyman trying to figure out every person that could possibly give them the benefit because, Roman's not showing up for work. Ends up not finding him. They end up taking out Randy Orton before the match, so it kind of evens up the odds. Randy comes in the last minute, gets the save, gets the win. Hooray, the faces are,
What did you think was going to happen here?
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, the faces succeed. They work together, which is interesting.
Right, which doesn't normally happen. I mean, there's a little bit of tension
before you're
between all
having
of them.
an opponent, a big match against all these guys as opponents.
But I feel like this I like everybody that was involved, obviously. I like that Randy Orton is returned. I feel like that this is just cannon fodder where we're just waiting for WrestleMania at this point.
It absolutely is cannon fodder.
And
downfall of monthly PLEs.
And it's unfortunate because I want to care about this match more. I want to look at it and be like, oh man, there's a chance that Roman's not going to win.
Yeah.
He's got 3 other guys against him, and he doesn't have to get
3
pinned.
really super talented over guys too, and they all have the potential of winning. Not right now, but eventually. And it's unfortunate because that storyline could be so good if they invested more time into it instead of just the last 3 weeks.
Right.
It's a shame it won't be able to go that far.
Well, I think your biggest problem is you have 2 guys that have already established themselves as legends in WWE.
Right.
And you have LA Knight that is
going to probably take the loss
of a very big hype that is starting to die down.
Right.
The movement, although it's still there, he comes out and he does his finger points. Everybody yells LA Knight. It's not nearly as strong as it was before. So I think and he's the only one that has been on television for longer than, a few months.
Right.
So you're having an issue to where there's not a lot of story. I can't really believe that AJ Styles is going to win this match. But other than Randy Orton and AJ Styles, I couldn't see anybody else winning this match besides Roman Reigns. So it's already got this unbelievability to it.
It does.
And I don't know if that's because I pay attention to more than just what you see on the television. That's probably what it is.
It doesn't help.
But it takes away from it because I don't have very high expectations for this match already, even though it has 4 guys that perform very well in the ring.
But I feel like Roman and The Rock, there would be a lot taken away from if that wasn't a championship match either.
Oh, yeah.
If Roman Reigns loses, you can still have...
Now, this is assuming that they're going to announce that Rock versus Roman is going to happen.
Yeah, I don't mean to be rude, but let's be realistic here. It's going to be The Rock versus Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. They've been trying to do it for years.
I've heard that they might make it into a 3-way between him, Roman, and Cody.
I'm not really a fan of that. Personally, I feel like if you're going to let Cody do anything, even a glimpse of finishing the story, you got to get The Rock out of there.
But how better than finishing the story, but not only taking out the tribal chief, but vanquishing the great one?
Nah, I don't know. Me personally, not a big fan. I feel like he needs to do that on his own.
I think it's just because you're a rockhead.
I'm a huge rockhead, but I can understand.
Is that a thing? Are rockheads a thing?
I don't know. I don't know. What do you call a rock fan?
I'm a Johnson head.
Hear me out. Oh, God, that's weird. I'm a huge fan of The Rock, and I think it's great that he's going to be fighting Roman Reigns, and I think this is really fun that he's coming back. But he can't hang like he used to.
The
Rock? I know there's a time. Yeah, believe it or not.
I feel like The Rock could hang 5 times better than he could back when he was
more muscular, but he looked pretty winded after that interaction with Jinder Mahal the other day.
Well, yeah, I mean,
being physically fit,
when you got to carry the whole thing. I mean, that'd win anybody, even The Rock.
mean, yeah, that would make you absolutely exhausted.
So you don't think that there's any chance there's going to be a 3-way at WrestleMania?
I just feel like that just is like, oh, and Cody, like, you know, like why?
I mean,
like
at this point, if it goes any other way than it playing out to WrestleMania, 41,
sure,
I feel like it's going to be and Cody.
Yeah,
it's going to be Rock versus Roman and Cody.
Like somebody else could win it between the time Roman
the belt
loses it and the time Cody gets it.
How bullshit would that be?
Slightly bullshit.
AJ Styles has been injured for months, just comes back. Randy Orton injured for months.
Oh, I'm not even talking about this match. It could be something else, and I'm not saying it's The Rock. That would be such a bad move.
Matt Cardona.
Yes. Yes.
I don't know. I'm excited for the match. Mm-hmm. I'm excited. They're trying to really build this up, and they're trying to do it a little bit different than they normally do.
Yep.
But it deflates because I can't see it going any other way than Roman retaining, and it just kind of sucks the wind out of it. Mm-hmm. And there's nothing you can do besides changing the title to make it not feel that way.
I know. And it's like not even exciting to think about him changing the title either.
But it's going to be a great match.
I hope.
Like, it's going to be just to see Randy Orton and AJ Styles.
Oh, this is going to be a great match. I just hope the match that Roman finally does lose is a great match because for me, that sure didn't work out with The Undertaker.
It's going to have to be. Oh, for Brock Lesnar? Oh. Yeah, I know you weren't a fan of that. I'm not a fan of that. I've grown to appreciate it a little bit more. Mm-hmm. I've grown to not be so sour about it.
Yeah.
When we were saying that CM Punk should have ended the streak, I look back at it now and just shake my head like, oh, poor young Mark.
Oh, you had no idea.
Yeah. Had no idea. Had absolutely no idea.
So this seemed to be the weekend for debuts. We already talked about Jack Perry going over to NJPW, whether, like I said, he's signed or not, we don't know. But 2 people were at the TNA Premium Live event.
Hard to Kill.
One being formerly known as Dana Brooke, who's going by Ash by Elegance, is what they said.
Ash by Elegance. I don't really know if that's a previous moniker she's gone by or if it's a new one.
I don't know anything about Dana Brooke.
I think everybody was very confused about it, and the announcers had to clarify that it was formerly known she was formerly known as Dana Brooke in the WWE.
Kind of looks like Toni Storm.
Yeah, she's got a very like classic, movie star look. It might just be she was trying to get dolled up to get people talking about her because she's definitely a good-looking girl. But, I don't really know if she's going to be... I'm assuming she's going to be a part of Impact.
They said she was observing.
Yeah, she's just observing an interested observer is what they implied. So I'm sure she's going to show up on TNA programming. But they also had another debut, which I think kind of caught everybody by surprise. Not of where it was, but for how quickly he debuted for another company, quote unquote. Nick Nemeth debuted in Impact,
which is all TNA.
I'm sorry, TNA.
He had come back to NJPW. We talked about it in the last podcast that we had put out the second podcast we put out last week. He had debuted in NJPW and now has pretty much shown that he's officially with TNA, which I think is honestly great.
All right, came out. Spoiler alert: if you don't want to know who won the main event of Hard to Kill, Moose was standing in the ring with his newly won belt, and Nick Nemeth's music started coming on.
Perfect Nick Nemeth music.
And then classic newcomer. Everybody's looking at the entrance, and lo and behold, he rolls into the ring, attacks Moose, ends up ripping his shirt off, has a TNA wrestling T-shirt on underneath. Real good. I really liked it. I was wondering where he was going to show up. I was excited to see him in NJPW. Not that he won't show up in NJPW. TNA and NJPW do have the multiverse pay-per-view they put on every year. So they have a good working relationship as well. So you might see him on both NJPW and TNA Hopefully as well. It's gonna be so hard for me to get used to saying TNA again. I've gotten
so
used to calling it Impact.
Took years to get used to that. Now it's back.
Really loved the look of the TNA ring and the
yellow
setup.
ropes.
It felt very reminiscent of when it used to be in Orlando a lot, in the Impact Zone, because it used to be TNA Impact, whatever. But it looked real good. The product looks real good. The matches looked absolutely phenomenal. I know all the matches that they did have were really good matches to begin with. So just excited to see what's going to come out of TNA, being the, I guess, quote-unquote third brand that's on television between WWE and AEW. But it's
the talent is just incredible.
Yeah, it's always been like, if you want to go for pure wrestling and creative, like goofy wrestling, I guess that's the place to go. It's always been like that place. It's always been the place that stretches the imagination of professional wrestling.
You can have some supernatural stuff, and that's okay over in TNA Impact.
But yeah, I'm excited to see what they're going to do with Nic Nemeth.
And with Nic Nemeth being over in TNA, Deonna Purrazzo was able to have her first match in AEW. I loved it. It was against Red Velvet, but me personally, if you've been watching AEW for a while, somebody like Red Velvet is just like homegrown talent.
She's a staple.
She was out for, I think it was like 9 months, and now she's finally back.
I think she had a knee injury,
Yep,
she's back on TV.
She made Deonna look great. Tony Storm said a little bit about her earlier in the week. Oh, I've heard her name before. So it's definitely leading to something with Deonna and Tony, which is going to be huge.
I think she's got to get through Mariah May first. She is not happy that Deonna Purrazzo interrupted her debut match.
Well, it's not a debut if you debut during the debut. So they negated the debut.
Yeah. So now
I'm upset for Mariah.
So does that mean Mariah May has yet to debut in AEW?
Perhaps. I think we need to run it back.
Are we gonna? But I really think we're gonna see Deonna and Mariah May have one hell of a match between the two of each other. I think it's gonna be you got to go against the sub boss before you go against the boss.
I hope it would be like that because, geez, I mean they're really, aside from Athena, there aren't very many, or Jamie Hayter really.
I was going to wait for you
women.
to finish the sentence. Yeah, and that's another one. You got Mariah May who's just showed up. You got Deonna Purrazzo who's just showed up. You have obviously the rumors that are always going around with Mercedes Moné, a.k.a. Sasha Banks. Who knows where she's going to show up. At one point, it was a guarantee, absolute surefire, bet on it. Sasha Banks is returning to WWE television.
That hasn't happened.
And now all of a sudden, money talks are so far away from each other, it's never going to happen. And before that, AEW rumors were flying out the windows that she is a done deal. Plans are in motion to get her signed to an AEW contract. Those fell through, apparently. Now we're back to where she's speaking to AEW again, and they're just minutes away.
He said,
just a few texts away from it's just like, God damn, like, get off of it already.
Oh yeah.
But we have a lot of like movement going around with a lot of different superstars kind of mixing things up.
It's good in the women's division. It really needed an adjustment and some new people in there.
Right.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. It's not like the talent is bad in AEW, but there's like
they just don't have
very few women in the AEW roster.
Well,
but
I think we saw a number the other day. There was only 27 on the AEW
something
women's
like
roster.
that. So when you have so few people, it's really hard to showcase women's wrestling when you only have 20-something wrestlers. So them adding more to the roster is only helping that.
Right.
I
gotta say too, we're on the topic of Dynamite or AEW at this point. I really got to give it to AEW come the first of the year. This is the second full week of AEW that we've had, and I really feel like they came out the gate swinging. Like the first Dynamite of the year, I absolutely loved it from beginning to end. It was a fun episode. It was reminiscent of like when Dynamite was fresh and new and they were putting stuff on that people wanted to see.
Yep. This week being in Daly's place.
It just
same
felt
thing.
good.
It felt like you were home.
Rampage was the same way. I mean, Rampage is always nice. It's like that little, snack after dinner. You know, like, I'm going to get that little that taste of professional wrestling.
Got to see the Dark Order this week.
Collision has been by far of the 3 shows. Like you talk about like the entirety of of those shows between Dynamite, Rampage, and Collision. Collision has become my favorite. I love the presentation that they have been doing.
It's very unique.
AEW has like come out of the gate really trying to push their product to the best of their capabilities. And I really have not seen a lot of people complaining about what you've seen in the past 2 weeks on AEW.
No.
Maybe some minor nuances. Maybe you don't like the angle that they're doing with this certain person, or you didn't like the way they wrestled. You can justify it that way. But as a product as a whole, as the presentation right after the Continental Classic, right after the World's End pay-per-view, I really think they've juggled and maintained their product very well.
The momentum has not stopped.
Right.
It's continued to grow. It's continued to add new people. It's continued to add new rivalries. I really think the Continental Classic really helped to start off the year in such a great pivotal way.
Right.
Eddie going out there and defending it, and now in NJPW is such a great thing.
It added a lot of life to a lifeless storyline.
Yeah, because again, we were trying to get over CM Punk being fired and all the stuff and All In, and it's
because all of that had to
trying to die down again.
Months and months of planning, Punk
again,
and Jungle Boy having that altercation backstage, having it to the point where they ended up firing Punk. That had to throw off everything they had in the works. Obviously, Tony Khan, huge CM Punk fan, obviously wanted to base the entire company around him. It didn't work out, and obviously the plans they had in place got completely nerfed. The same thing happened when Moxley had to do the same thing the first time that Punk and the Bucks or in the Elite got into the whole spiel. They had to make a complete left-hand turn.
Yep. And other people in the company had to step up. Yeah.
And, the entire year it was them dealing with the fallout of the first one and then the fallout of the second one, and they had a full year to where it was just nonstop shit. We can't use these plans. This person got hurt.
Right, trying to build up the firm, and now we can't even do anything with them. It just always something.
And I think the Continental Classic was a good way to smooth out all those rough waters they've had. And
I agree.
They've rolled right into 2024, and they've really pushed that momentum forward, and I feel like they're doing a great job with it. They still got a lot of traction to make up.
Sure.
But I really
still
think
a new company.
I think they started off this year really well.
They're just saying now that they're just hitting their 5 years, and it's been an incredible 5 years. I want to touch back a little bit. We were talking about Collision just being so fresh and unique and fun. I really loved what they did this week. Again, we talked about this last week with Adam Copeland. He's basically been having this open challenge. Anybody wants to come out and face me, which I love because it's never like Bryan Danielson. It's the guys that really need time but haven't gotten it. Lee Moriarty took the call this time, and both of us were just absolutely stoked. Huge Lee Moriarty fans. But they did a little video package for him. Shane Taylor came out with him and was basically if you don't know Lee Moriarty, here's a little clip, and they showed 45 seconds maybe.
Yeah, it was, he kind of cut a pseudo promo over a bunch of video footage of a bunch of his matches, a bunch of promo footage for him, and it was a really cool little promotional package to introduce anyone who doesn't know who Lee Moriarty is or hasn't seen a lot of him. It showcased a lot of his moves. It just kind of got people hyped up about seeing this guy. Everybody knows who Adam Copeland is. The minute he walks out, he doesn't even have the music. Everybody knows who he is. But Lee Moriarty's kind of a lesser known individual.
You might not know, right?
And even Adam Copeland has come out to saying he's trying to put over other talent. He's trying to give them an opportunity to shine in a spot that normally they wouldn't get. So
and
this is an opportunity they did. And Lee Moriarty is a hell of a talent. If you listen to any of the podcasts, every time we've talked about him, we have always really enjoyed his work. And to have him come out and have a match with Adam Copeland was really good for him. It allowed him to showcase how skilled he is in the ring. And it allowed a lot of people to get eyeballs on it because Adam Copeland was part of that match.
Right. It shows you he can work with anybody.
Right. And
veteran,
also,
new, anywhere in between.
Adam Copeland being involved in that 8-man tag match that happened earlier in the week
on Dynamite
Lee tribute.
Sure.
Same idea. He came out, not very much fanfare, not very much focus on him. He had his entrance, people cheered. Even his outfit, it was all black. It didn't have a lot of fanfare to him. Same thing with the Griff Garrison match.
He was wearing a Canadians Brody Lee t-shirt.
Just enough to pander to the crowd. But he's come into AEW with goals in mind. He had spotlight on him for a while when he was wrestling Christian Cage and having that whole, rivalry with him,
right.
which still isn't obviously done.
Absolutely.
But now he knows, okay, I've had my moment. I step back a little bit.
Yeah,
and
let me
put over
the
more
next
talent.
generation of guys.
He didn't need the wins. It didn't give him any more momentum than he already had.
It only helped the other people.
It helps the other guys showcase how good they are. And
how incredible.
I love seeing lately both WWE and AEW have been pushing new talent, whether it's NXT going to the main roster or it's AEW bringing in different people to wrestle. Queen Aminata. I keep calling her Queen Amidala. It's not Star Wars. But she just got signed because of her performance, whether it's a performance-based contract or it's an actual contract. Like, it's so good to see them finding good talent and showcasing them on television.
Yeah, this is how you do it,
listening to the crowd and going, hey, they like them.
Yeah, exactly.
And keeping them around and making them a part. Willie Mack's another one.
Yeah, like Carmelo Hayes, like we were just talking about. You put them up, you put them in an opportunity to shine, it works over, and people are like, I absolutely love this. Well, you know what? We should listen to the people. We should look at the next generation of talent. And
right.
Like you said, this has been a really good couple of months for both AEW and WWE to showcase the next generation of people. I mean, some of these people that you and I have been watching for 20 years, they don't have too much longer left in them.
Adam Copeland.
I can't believe Randy Orton was able to come back. I mean, I thought that was it. So
they were projecting that he'd never come back.
Yeah, I mean, Bryan Danielson, he's talking about retiring.
I'm telling you, I'm still waiting for that Big E return.
I hope.
I got my theories. I'm really hoping. This is a long shot, okay? But I'm really hoping that Ludwig Kaiser destroying Kofi Kingston and quote-unquote injuring him prompts Big E to come back. I'm really hoping this week we have Ludwig talking mad shit about the New Day. And then the New Day's music comes up because Xavier's hurt and Kofi is now quote-unquote, out of the picture.
Right.
I'm really hoping New Day's music hits and Big E comes out.
That would be insane.
Like, I just want to see Big E back. Like, obviously, I want him to be healthy and happy. And
even if he can't wrestle and he just hits him a couple times.
I miss Big E.
I hope they at least put him on the commentary team because he just is an unforgettable talent.
Yeah. He's got a hell of a way with words.
His personality is just, oh my God. Just thinking about him is literally making me smile. Like, it's just, he's got such an infectious energy. So I would pray that you are correct there. I really hope you're right. So you were talking a little bit earlier about how AEW has really started off like with a huge bang. It's just been really interesting. But this week, Dynamite and Rampage were both shot at Daly's Place, which is just an energy like, I don't know if you're an AEW fan, you've been watching for a while, especially through COVID times. Daly's Place is very special when the matches are there. It's just different. And it seems like everybody just really tries their best and feels like very sentimental.
It's home turf for them. It's their like home base. It's when, the Celtics go to the Garden. It's when, I don't know football. It's when your sports team goes to the home, the home turf. It's a home game, so it's
in our terms, it would be the Tampa Bay Bucks go to Raymond James Stadium.
That's wrong. It's when the Boston Bruins go to the TD Garden.
Stadium. Speaking of Daly's Place, one interesting and very fun match we had was Hangman Adam Page versus Claudio Castagnoli.
Yeah, what a banger.
I mean, Hangman has just been on fire lately. Not that Claudio isn't great, but anything Hangman does lately, it's just
people are all over
a different fire. And I've been saying, like, every time I see him, I'm like, damn, I wish this was his time for a championship run.
Yeah.
I don't think
his championship run was not as good as I think everybody hoped it would be.
No, I really don't think so. And it's a shame. It's not because he wasn't doing things as well. He has like a different confidence to him now. And I think it's just years of being on TV and facing these big opponents like he has. And like, even after he's fought Swerve this last time, like he's a different person. So it just felt like a different match. But going back to Swerve and Hangman are both insinuating that they are going after Samoa Joe's title.
Understandably, I could see it around either one of them. Swerve deserves it.
I'm okay.
Hangman is definitely, obviously, former AEW World Champion, so he obviously is that type of caliber.
What a great time for him to be able to do that. People just absolutely love him.
Don't forget, Samoa Joe has a match with Hook that's coming up Dynamite.
Yeah, it's like MJF all over again, where it's like everybody wants to come after your title.
The most coveted prize in all of professional wrestling. You know what I mean? Everybody wants a piece.
Okay, let's be realistic here. Is Hook going to win on Dynamite? No. How can they make Hook look good after a loss like that?
Well, I think you have Hook go out there and you really show that he's not just a champion of a material of a title that is technically not
a title
in AEW. I think he's got the backing from the crowd and from the fans that he could
Everybody
be championship material. But number one, he hardly has said a word since he's been in AEW, which is kind of his gimmick.
Right.
And he's had not nearly as many matches as a lot of other people. So I don't know if he could, I don't know if he would fit in as the champion with Adam Page.
Not that champion
or fit in with Swerve Strickland. I don't think it would be a good time to give Hook the championship right now because he doesn't have the charisma on the mic yet. They haven't given it to him yet, so he might be primed, ready to go. Just got to hand him an opportunity.
But he needs a big opponent.
He needs to prove that he's worthy of the title. And I think this is a good stepping stone to put him towards that direction. I don't think he's going to dethrone Joe, but I think
Joe
this
needs
is going
to
to accelerate him towards that direction. It's going to accelerate him into a rivalry with an individual that is going to push him harder than anybody else has and put him into that realm of, well, maybe he is championship material
or he's
now.
got the potential to be.
Right.
But Joe needs to
has
look...
the potential.
He does. Joe needs to look vulnerable here in the sense that he's like really showing that he got his head rocked by Hook.
Keep him bulletproof. Keep him bulletproof, but definitely show...
Maybe Samoa Joe just gets one over on him.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not even technical. It's the classic roll-up.
Yep.
You know?
Yep. Just an unexpected moment just to give Hook that sense of dangerousness to Joe.
Right.
But all in all, like I said, it's going to go to Joe. And then, I mean, eventually, I feel like we're going to see... I don't think we're done. I definitely know we're not done with Hangman and Swerve. So we might see the accumulation of that come to a head, and the winner of that end up challenging Joe for the championship later on, possibly at Revolution.
So, like, when we're talking about Daily's Place, two original Daily's Place AEW wrestlers in the men's division, Ricky Starks and Sammy Guevara, went back and forth on Dynamite.
Head to head. Mano y mano.
Mano y mano.
That was a good match.
It was a good match. It was just to add more fuel to the match that ended up happening at Battle of the Belts after Collision this week.
Right. Which again, AEW, man.
Interesting way to start off.
I love the extra hour we have, but god damn it. There's just so much wrestling. Calm down.
It's a lot of wrestling, and like when it started, it was really awkward because I was like, oh, like I kept forgetting that was the match. I thought like they were like...
It was a street match.
They were like jumping each other before the match, you know, like typical, you know...
It's a street match.
Tag team match.
I think the difference between a street match and a Falls Count Anywhere Anything Goes match is you just start in the street.
That's how it at least goes, yeah.
And I've got to wonder, because they were just really just outside the building that they were having Dynamite at, or I'm sorry, at Collision at. You got to, like, looking across the street, there's like people in restaurants like staring as, you know, Big Bill's throwing a brick through a window.
Right.
They're doing a double suplex onto the roof of a Nissan Sentra in a parking spot that's out in front of a bunch of different shops. Shirtless men yelling and screaming in just ridiculously amounts of pain. And it was just all I could think of, like the residents of Norfolk, Virginia, just looking over like, what is going on?
Yeah. Why is there cameras following these guys?
Yeah. So it started off really strange, but it was a good match. They did a good job kind of like making it seem like they were really trying to kill each other.
Yeah, and making it seem like Sammy and Chris Jericho were really going to win it.
Right.
Because that was how it seemed from the get-go, was that there finally was going to be, it doesn't happen almost never, a change of title at Battle of the Belts. It was finally going to be for this tag team championship. And it didn't happen for the craziest reason, which Sammy Guevara climbed up way too high of a rafter.
Always with his crazy stunts.
Yeah, he's crazy.
Got to give him the man credit, though.
I mean, he full commits to it. So, yeah, you really have to give him the credit. He ended up not hitting Ricky, which is who he was going for, because Will Hobbs, of all people, pulled Ricky's foot out of the way so he didn't get the bump. There was never any mention as to why did Hobbs help Ricky?
The only thing I can think of, is that Jericho is at ends with Don Callis. And Jericho's already been taken out. Also, Sammy used to be a part of the Don Callis family.
Right.
Turned his back on him. So the only thing I can think of is he just sent out Hobbs to do that so that both Sammy and Jericho
didn't win. Not really more to help Ricky, but more so Sammy and Chris Jericho lost.
The enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Yeah, I mean, that's the huge backstory and dynamic between Ricky Starks and Will Hobbs.
I was so upset when Ricky and Hobbs
and Brian Cage, like, oh my God, the Team FTW with Taz. I absolutely loved it. When Taz used to have those little segments where he would talk about like the technical aspect of wrestling.
Oh yeah, he would break everything down in complete bullshit reasons, but I was like so good.
Such a fun time. When, speaking of Hook, would just come out to the ring with everybody. He didn't even wrestle then.
And people loved him back then too.
Mm-hmm. He didn't say anything then.
Right.
He just eats potato chips. You gotta love it.
He still eats potato chips. Now he just hangs out with Danhausen and strippers. The only other thing we got tonight is just probably our favorite match of the week. It was House of Black took on FTR and Daniel Garcia. We had Daniel Garcia and Brody King had their little back and forth with the Continental Classic, so there was that. FTR and House of Black have been going back and forth for a good number of weeks now. But besides that, it was just a very well choreographed match. And yes, fuck you, I used the word choreographed. Suck my nuts. It was just, there was a lot of really good spots in it. I don't want to dwell too much on it. I know you were worried about it or you wanted to say something about it, but it really was just a hell of a match. Like it just from a technical aspect, House of Black and FTR are just so good. Same with Daniel Garcia. They're just so good. So right. And it was just an entertaining match. There was a good back and forth between Dax and Buddy Matthews towards the end that you could tell got the crowd a handful of times. And it just wanted to just put it out there. You want a good match to watch? Watch the end of the main event of Collision. It's good.
Definitely.
It's a great match.
I think it's probably going to come down maybe to Dax versus Malachi. Fighting get that singles match that everybody was complaining about that they didn't get from Malachi last year.
Right.
So he never had a singles match last year, which is crazy.
Well, I'm sure we'll be seeing a lot more from the House of Black. FTR. His feud is obviously far from over. With House of Black getting the win, Daniel Garcia and Brody King definitely still have at least one more match left in them. Like you said, Dax and Malachi should definitely have a singles match together. Why not Cash and Buddy? Round it off. You got the trifecta.
Let's cook.
You know, the house versus I don't even know what you're gonna call it, FT dance off.
Look, come.
Although gotta mention, loved Daniel Garcia dropping to the crisscross applesauce position, and then Malachi Black tempting to dance and only just giving him the middle finger. Absolutely loved it. I popped for it. Goofy wrestling, made my nipples hard, whatever you want to call it. Loved it. If you don't get down with wrestling like that, I don't think you and I are going to have a good time together.
It's just fun.
But I do want to thank you for listening, because if you listen to this up to this point, you listened to the entire podcast. So thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Coffee and Wrestling, a wrestling podcast. Make sure, if you like what you've heard, follow us on all social medias at CEW Wrestling Pod. Make sure also when you're listening, you rate us a 5-star review. We'd really appreciate it. It really helps promote the podcast. The more promotion we get, the better off it is, and the more we can bring towards you. You can follow me on my personal Twitter at Gunnock Dudley.
And also please follow me at A Bacon Party.
Start your week off right every Monday with a fresh episode of Coffee and Wrestling, a wrestling podcast. It's posted at 4 a.m., so it is up well before you are. Thank you so much for listening. We will catch you in the next episode. I was going to say, don't they have something to do with Enterprise, TK Holdings or whatever it is?
Who's that?
Ah, fuck.